More than 42,000 people were placed under mandatory evacuation orders as a fast-moving wildfire pushed toward the northwestern edge of Reno, Nevada. Another 45,000 residents were told to prepare to leave. 6 people were injured, homes and at least one business were destroyed, and the fire remained completely uncontained after burning more than 15,000 acres. Meanwhile, major fires in California, Washington, and Oregon kept the national wildfire response at its highest preparedness level. So let's get right into it. The Hawk Fire became one of the most urgent wildfires emergencies in the country because it moved from dry grass and brush toward a major population center in a matter of hours. It began Saturday near Hawk Meadow Trail, about 1 mile north of Cold Creek Trail in the Somerset area northwest of Reno. Investigators classified the fire as human-caused, but they had not determined whether the ignition was accidental or intentional. An early Washoe County update measured the fire at 10,522 acres, while officials waited for a new intelligence flight. Later mapping placed the perimeter above 15,000 acres. The difference reflects when each measurement was taken and the difficulty of mapping a rapidly moving fire through heavy smoke. The updated perimeter still showed 0% containment, meaning no section of the fire line had yet received official tamed credit. 0% containment does not mean crews have done nothing. Firefighters may defend homes, construct bulldozer lines, remove vegetation, and stop short runs without immediately adding to the containment figure. Containment is credited only when commanders believe a section of the perimeter is unlikely to escape established control features. With Hawk Fire still at 0%, the operation remained focused on life safety, evacuation support, and keeping the flames away from densely populated neighborhoods. Approximately 42,000 residents were within mandatory go-now evacuation areas on Sunday. Another 45,000 were in warning zones. These are different groups and should not be combined as 90,000 people already evacuated. Anyone under an order was instructed to leave immediately. Residents under a warning were told to prepare medications, documents, clothing, pet supplies, and transportation before conditions worsened. Officials warned that waiting until flames were visible could create traffic jams and block emergency vehicles. 3 civilians and 3 first responders were injured. Multiple homes and at least one business were confirmed destroyed, although authorities had not completed the damage assessment or released a final structure count. Families described leaving with pets and only a few essential belongings as flames reached their neighborhood. No deaths had been confirmed in the latest verified reports. The exact number of damaged and destroyed buildings remained one of the most important figures still awaiting official confirmation. The fire also disrupted transportation, electricity, medical care, and schools. Portions of U.S. Route 395 were closed north of Reno. 2 hospitals moved patients as a precaution, and officials monitored conditions near the Washoe County Jail. Nearly 10,000 customers remained without power on Sunday, down from roughly 60,000 during the peak of Saturday's outages. Washoe County schools, except Gerlach K-12, were closed Monday, while the University of Nevada, Reno remained just outside the evacuation area. The Reno Sparks Convention Center opened to displaced residents after the earlier shelter at the Evelyn Mount Northeast Community Center reached capacity. Pets and large animals had to be taken to separate facilities, adding another complication for families evacuating with little warning. Local hotels and casinos offered reduced rates, while community organizations began collecting food, clothing, and other supplies. These services became increasingly important as evacuation boundaries expanded, and some residents learned that their homes or businesses had been lost. Roughly 800 firefighters and emergency personnel were involved in the response by Sunday, with additional local, state, federal, and international support arriving. Nevada deployed 60 National Guard troops to help protect evacuated neighborhoods, along with 2 helicopter crews. Firefighters built fuel breaks on the southern and eastern sides while trying to keep the fire south of Cold Springs and north of Somerset. Shifting winds, dry vegetation, and intense fire behavior repeatedly limited safe access to parts of the perimeter. Weather remained one of the largest uncertainties. The incident forecast called for temperatures in the middle 80s, relative humidity between 25 and 30%, and gusts reaching 15 to 20 miles per hour. Those conditions can drive flames rapidly through dry grass and carry embers beyond the main fire line. A brief shower would not guarantee relief. Firefighters would need sustained wetting rain, weaker winds, and better overnight humidity recovery to meaningfully reduce the fire's intensity. In California, the timber fire near Big Sur underwent another major expansion. By Sunday evening, intelligence mapping placed it at 12,616 acres with 25% containment. Earlier that morning, it had been listed at 9,665 acres. Much of the newer growth occurred in rugged sections of the Ventana wilderness, where steep slopes intersecting canyons and limited ground access forced incident commanders to rely heavily on helicopters and other aircraft. 7 Monterey County zones remained under mandatory evacuation orders, while 11 additional zones were under evacuation warnings. 661 residential, commercial, and other structures were listed as threatened. The response included 1,368 personnel, 14 helicopters, 81 engines, 10 bulldozers, 15 water tenders, and 28 crews. CAL FIRE listed no confirmed injuries, deaths, damaged structures, or destroyed structures in the latest incident facts. The cause remained under investigation. Highway 1 reopened after a closure lasting nearly 2 weeks, but the reopening did not mean the fire was controlled. Emergency traffic and falling rock hazards remained concerns along the corridor. Fire activity was limited on the coastal side, and crews detected no heat on the northwestern side of the Big Sur River. Farther inland, the fire remained active toward Ventana Cone and within Logwood Ridge, although officials reported no major eastward run. Cloud cover moderated activity, but poor overnight humidity allowed continued burning. In Washington, the Little Giant Fire remained one of the largest and most destructive incidents in the Pacific Northwest. The latest federal situation report listed it at 142,218 acres with 15% containment, about 30 miles northwest of Leavenworth. The lightning-caused fire continued burning through steep terrain in the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest, with active flanking, group torching, and spotting. Evacuations and extensive road, trail, and area closures remained in effect. A Chelan County assessment confirmed at least 35 structures destroyed in the upper Enchiette Valley. The losses included 2 primary residences, 13 secondary homes or cabins, and more than 20 outbuildings. The total could change as assessors safely reach additional property. Numerous structures and critical infrastructure remained threatened, and 240 soldiers from Joint Base Lewis McChord were deployed in support of firefighting operations. Despite stronger containment lines in some areas, Little Giant remained an active and complex incident. Farther north in Washington, the Sinlahekin Fire near Tonasket had burned 154,480 acres and was 47% contained. The latest federal situation report listed 30 structures lost. Moderate fire behavior continued, including short crown runs, group torching, and spotting. Residences and critical infrastructure remained threatened, while area, road, and trail closures stayed in effect. Although nearly half of the perimeter had received containment credit, the incident remained active and continued to require more than 1,500 personnel. Near Tok, Alaska, the Mukluk Fire covered 7,260 acres and was 20% contained. Federal reporting listed 44 structures lost, but the available table did not identify all of them as primary residences. Numerous homes and pieces of critical infrastructure remained threatened, with evacuation orders in area, road, and trail closures still in effect. 264 personnel, 6 crews, 15 engines, and 5 helicopters were assigned. A small reduction in acreage reflected more accurate mapping rather than burned land being restored. Several additional fires required close monitoring. In Washington, the Three Queens Fire expanded by more than 2,500 acres in one reporting period, reaching 6,379 acres, with only 2% containment as evacuations remained in effect. In Oregon, the Hagen Fire covered 59,559 acres with 19% containment and continued threatening residences and critical infrastructure. Montana's Sand Creek Fire reached 32,306 acres with 10% containment, with evacuations in effect and 1 structure listed as lost. 2 newly classified Northwest incidents also displayed extreme behavior: the 4,000-acre Colwash Fire in Washington and the 100-acre North Pole Fire in Oregon. Both were at 0% containment and had prompted evacuations. Their early acreage estimates could change quickly as incident teams completed additional mapping. Oregon presented a more mixed picture. The Grasshopper Fire remained active at approximately 93,700 acres, with containment at 76%. Structure Protection Resources had begun returning home after conditions improved along several sides of the fire. However, the latest federal report still described active uphill runs, flanking, and group torching, with residences and critical infrastructure threatened. Crews continued removing hazardous trees, mopping up heat, repairing suppression damage, and maintaining road, trail, and area closures. Nationwide, the National Interagency Coordination Center reported 79 large fires, including 5 newly classified large incidents. 22,120 firefighters and support personnel were assigned across the country. Agencies had responded to 50,580 wildfires since January. Active large fires accounted for approximately 3,577,730 acres, while the year-to-date total had reached 7,738,302 acres. The number of wildfires recorded this year stood at 129% of the 10-year average. The acreage burned was even more elevated at 169% of the 10-year average. Those figures confirm an unusually severe season, but the annual total was not final. The comparison also shows why the number of incidents alone does not describe the full impact. A smaller number of extremely large fires can drive acreage, evacuation, smoke exposure, and resource demand sharply higher. Oregon and Washington led the state-level list, reporting 15 and 13 large fires, respectively. Using its broader geographic system, NIFC listed 29 uncontained large fires and 11 complex incident management teams in the Northwest area. National Preparedness Level 5 remained in effect, the highest level on the federal scale. That designation means major incidents are competing for crews, aircraft, equipment, and experienced management teams as the national response system works under sustained demand. The significant fire potential map valid for Sunday highlighted 2 major triggers across the northern West. Wind-driven risk, marked with a W, extended through parts of eastern Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. High-risk lightning areas, marked with an L, covered portions of Montana and the northern Rockies. An upper-level trough passing north of Montana was expected to produce fast-moving thunderstorms with limited rainfall, while dry and breezy conditions increased the risk that new ignitions could spread before crews reached them. A dry thunderstorm produces lightning and strong outflow winds, but little wetting rain at the surface. Lightning can start new fires, while sudden wind shifts can change the direction and speed of fires already burning. Red flag warnings are issued when weather and dry fuels combine to create conditions favorable for rapid fire growth. The exact thresholds vary by region, so residents should follow the National Weather Service office responsible for their location rather than relying on one national wind or humidity number. Satellite heat detections help analysts locate areas that deserve attention, but every colored point is not a separate wildfire. One large incident can generate hundreds of detections during a single pass. Clouds, smoke, terrain, and satellite timing can also hide active burning. Official acreage, containment, evacuation, and damage figures come from incident teams and emergency agencies after mapping and field verification. Satellite points are useful evidence of heat activity, but they should never be counted as individual disasters or treated as confirmed structure losses. Smoke can affect communities hundreds of miles beyond the fire perimeter. On the AirNow fire and smoke map, colored monitoring circles represent measured fine particle pollution, with yellow, orange, red, and purple indicating progressively worse air quality. People with asthma, heart disease, and other health conditions should follow local alerts closely. When air quality becomes unhealthy, reduce strenuous outdoor activity, keep windows closed when possible, filter indoor air, and use a properly fitted N95 respirator if outdoor exposure cannot be avoided. All 4 fires remained active in the latest verified reports, although their levels of containment and community threat differed substantially. Hawk Fire evacuation information should be checked through Emergency Washoe and the official perimeter map. Timber fire updates are available from CAL FIRE in Monterey County. Little Giant and Grasshopper information should be confirmed through INSEE Web, county emergency management offices, and federal situation reports. Evacuation boundaries, road closures, acreage, containment, and damage figures may change between scheduled updates. The Hawk Fire remained the most immediate life safety emergency in this update, while Timber, Little Giant, and Grasshopper continued placing heavy demands on crews across the West. This remains a developing situation, and we will continue following every confirmed change in evacuation orders, injuries, structure losses, fire growth, and containment. If you found this update useful, like the video, subscribe, and turn notifications on so you do not miss the next verified report. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.